So Ben and I first met at Miami when we were in undergrad, and we think we met like maybe even before the first week of school. I can't really remember, but I think Ben can.
I think I met Joyce at the freshman ice cream social at UMiami. We did become friends, and we were in the same friend group for most of college.
And then we like looked back at some old texts, and like, you know, we have some texts where we're trying to meet up at Ultra, but it didn't happen because the cell service was really bad at Ultra, so it just never happened. But eventually, in 2014, there was a big Outer Banks trip with our friend group, D-Squad, and I think Ben mostly planned that.
The first real something was at our first college friend group trip to the Outer Banks. I just noticed that she was really cute, really nice, really funny, really smart. She was telling us all about climate change.
That was the first time I hung out with Ben much. Otherwise, I just remember him like DJing a party during undergrad and me thinking like, oh, that's kind of fun. This guy's very bro-y, and but at the Outer Banks trip, he was still very bro-y, but he did a really silly dance move, and I liked that.
I proceeded to ask her if she wanted to kiss on the last night she was there. She said yes, as she was going to sleep. And that was sort of the start.
And I flew back to LA, Ben flew back to Chicago, and he texted me like, oh, can I come to LA and take you on a date, like a hiking date? And I was like, we can go hiking, but I don't want to go on a date because I was just really surprised.
So a long time passes, and Joyce ends up visiting Chicago with her family, and I happen to live really close to where they were visiting, and she texts me out of the blue saying she's visiting, and we end up meeting up, and all of a sudden things are kind of back on.
And then I flew back to LA, and Ben started kind of flying back and forth between LA and Chicago, and I was kind of not that interested, but we were still hanging out. And my mom passed away in between like the Chicago trip and the first LA trip that Ben took and visited me, so I was having kind of a tough year, not very emotionally available. But anyways, it started this whole saga of Ben flying back and forth between Chicago and LA, and us just hanging out as friends.
But when they first started seeing each other, I remember he would fly out to LA, he'd talk about her a lot, and it was always kind of like this situationship type thing. And so I didn't know how serious it was. I thought it was kind of casual, like if he's flying out to LA to see her, maybe it's just more of a, you know, if I see you kind of thing. And I remember when Ben and I were actually up in Northern California, and we were snowboarding Lake Tahoe, and we just happened to have one day over where I was going to catch my flight, and he wanted to stay one more night. He was going to go camping, which I thought was absurd because it was the wintertime, you know. And he told me that, you know, Joyce was going to drive up from LA to Lake Tahoe, which is like 6 hours. So of course it sounds a little suspicious because I'm like, Ben, I know you're great, but like, what woman who's getting her PhD is going to drive 6 hours from LA, where it's warm, to Lake Tahoe to go sleep in a tent? Like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. And yeah, sure enough, you know, we went to the camping site. She shows up with Athena, so I got to meet the dog, and just seeing Ben just really light up around her, I knew they had something special. And I knew that something special was going to last a long time because they were both committed to winter camping for the first time. I thought they'd done this before. It was their first time. And so it's kind of exciting. And, you know, we literally just left them in the woods.
Morning. We are just out here at Lake Tahoe.
Eventually, Ben was like applying to new jobs. He was applying in LA, in New Zealand, and he had like a couple of interviews in LA, and I was like, don't move to LA for me.
When Ben and I were roommates in Chicago and getting ready to move out, he was at a bit of a crossroads. On one side of the world was a dream home in New Zealand, and on the other side was Joyce, who he was just beginning to see at that time. As onlookers, our advice was go for Joyce, and New Zealand can wait. And little did I know that Ben was working on a win-win situation.
And then eventually he got a job offer in New Zealand, and I had been to New Zealand in 2013. I was like, oh, New Zealand's great, like have a great time. And kind of like a month before that or something, he came to LA one more time and we had a really nice time. And then our friends Chris and Katie got married in Kentucky, and we flew to Kentucky and we met up. And during that trip, I was like, oh wow, I actually really like Ben.
What's up, boys? Boys, everyone good?
Yeah, the wedding was really, really fun. We were like kind of almost like appearing together to our friend group that we were staying with, even though, again, we were all like friends before this, and that was what everyone saw us as before, but it all kind of felt as if we were dates to the wedding.
And it got really complicated really fast. I was like, oh no, I really like him. He's not just a broy frat bro. And we like had this tearful goodbye in the airport, and I didn't know what to do, and he decided to fly through LA again on the way to New Zealand. So we like spent 2 more days together, and then had another tearful airport goodbye, and I kind of, you know, sent him to New Zealand.
Eventually Joyce texts me saying that she wants to visit, and of course I'm really excited. It's like a really long trip.
So then, yeah, for a few months we were just texting and seeing other people, and then I flew to New Zealand in February, and we hung out for a couple weeks. First week was in Christchurch, and the second week we kind of took a road trip together, and like we just started super falling in love. Like we were talking about oh, like we like each other, but like we don't live in the same place, we're not ready to move for each other.
We had this conversation on the beach, I remember, where we kind of decided that actually we do want to figure out how to make a relationship work, but we're not quite ready. And we didn't really even know how. But then a few days later, on one of the last days that Joyce was there, we were just in this creek in the middle of the night going on a run, and Joyce told me that she loved me. And I said it back. She flew back the next day, I think, and then she called me, and we decided we would start dating.
And then we realized I could get a visa to New Zealand, and then we realized we could get Athena to New Zealand, and so then I just kind of moved to New Zealand after I finished at USC, and I never looked back, and it was a great decision.
It's just amazing to see them, you know, embarking on that first adventure where I met her, and then kind of committing all the way to going to New Zealand together and building this whole new life without me. But you know, it's really just, it's been amazing.
I remember being so happy. It was just this long journey to that point, really. And I made this big choice to move to New Zealand first, and still ended up finding a relationship with her. That was kind of it. We knew that we were gonna be together forever, I think, at that moment. Joyce proposed in Aitutaki, one of my favorite places. I don't really look back.